Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Tran. I'm a chiropractor, acupuncturist, and physical rehab specialist. And today, once again, I'd like to talk about health related topic. And as I get older, I start to pay more attention to my health as well as things surrounding my life. And one of the things that I learned to pay attention a lot after COVID is when I was home for 2 months. I start to spend more time, looking at natures, and when I walk and spend more time enjoying life as it is, one moment at a time. And so I've been advising all my patients to do so, live in the moment. And we all hear that all the time. We talk about it sometimes, but do we ever really sit down and have time to think about how do you live in the moment? So I'm looking around right now. It's getting a little colder. Fall's coming around. The leaves start falling. And it make me thinking. We go through this cycle. Especially in Virginia, we have four seasons. So in the fall, the leaves start falling. Why? Why are the leaves falling? It make me thinking. Well, it's falling because the winter's coming, and the leaf have to shed so that they don't waste so much energy, so they can keep warm, so they can hibernate through the winter, so the next spring, when the weather's warming up again, they sprout and live again. I think we should do the same for our health. I think that's why we don't realize how our body is deteriorating slowly year by year, and we blame so much on aging. And I think that's where we went wrong with our healthcare here. We should care for our health while we have the health, but do we ever think about healthy? Can we do the same thing that the tree are going through cycle? We have the fall, meaning Thanksgiving is coming, right? So every year we spend time thanking the people that make an impact on our life. What about our body? For the whole year, your body works so hard for you. Do you ever think about thanking them? Well, you might wonder, okay, Dr. Tran, how do I thank my body? Well, besides the thing that you do for your body, eat well, get massage, get vacations, get rest. What about try to be like a tree? The tree shedding leaves that they don't need, right? Well, holiday seasons are coming. Maybe you should sit down and think about, okay, what thing can I shed this year? On the last video, I think I might have talked about some stress and how we deal with stress. Do we ever identify our stress? Maybe it's time we should write down all the stress that we think affecting our life. And which one of those can we shred? Or at least which one of those can we put aside so we can hibernate through the winter, and we might pick them up next spring. Just like school, you have school, you have summer vacation, you have winter vacations. Do we have that to our body? Do we allow our body to have a winter vacation? Do we have our body to have a summer vacation? Like me, if I take a vacation with my family, with my kid, usually I feel like I need another vacation after that vacation. Or maybe you should definitely take that vacation for the body. It doesn't have to be a long one, but at least, a couple of weekends somewhere. But we should definitely think about the body, think about the stress that we put them through physically, mentally. Identify what in those areas that we can shred so that we can hibernate and recover. I think a lot of people make a mistake of feeling like I don't have pain, I'm healthy. Remember, only 10% of our entire nervous system are pain. So just the absence of pain doesn't determine how healthy you are. 100% functional is 100% health. Are you able to do everything that you used to do when you're in your 20 or when you're in your 30? Were you able to play tennis the way you used to play? Or at least can you able to run, a couple miles? So don't just use pain as a way to determine your health. And if anything, COVID that we learned from COVID is the underlying diseases that we don't know. Think of health as a saving account, right? We save money so that something happened in a rainy day, we have them to spend. Save for your health are the same thing. Everybody thinking about saving for retirement, but what about when you retire and you don't have your health anymore? Remember, every piece of our body, we only have one part of everything. We don't have spare part. So don't wait for them to break to do something about it. Do winter cleaning, do spring cleaning, right? We clean our house maybe twice, at least deep cleaning, try 3 times a year, I hope so, every month, every 2 weeks. How about our body?
So, Dr. Tran, I got a question for you. I'm sure something I'm thinking of, and maybe a lot of our listeners are thinking of, is, hey, that sounds great, but easier said than done. Do I get rid of? How do I just get rid of a stressor? Like, can you give some examples of ways that you could take something that is stressing you out right now and figure out how do we remove that, or how do we push that off into the future and not stress about that right now? Can you give some examples of that, like something that someone could go, oh, I relate to that. Let me implement that now.
Well, so the one thing I talked earlier, it's just like treating a disease. You have to identify what the disease is, right? So same with stress. You need to write them down. Identify your stress. What are the stress you have to deal with? Like, for example, for me, I have work, I have my kid in school, um, I have patients that I have to pay my staff. But when I write them down and I look at these, I say, okay, every time I see that my stat in my office is down, I'm scared, I'm worried, I couldn't sleep over it. But then if I write them all down and I was like, what can I do to change the stat? How can I increase my patient flow? And then I write that down and say, okay, what are the solutions? And then if I implement that solution and do the best I could, and then instead of looking at week by week, I look at the whole year. And most businesses are like that. We have up and down. Like there was months when we have, very like 5-10 patients a day, but then there's week when we have 20 patients a day. And that really helped me to deal with that stress. Now, that doesn't mean it's always like that. Every now and then I look at it, I say, oh my God, where's my patient? Especially when I have to pay, the end of the year, pay taxes, I have to pay all these chunks of money, then the stress came again. So every now and then I have to repeat myself. I have to remind myself. It's so easy to lose your focus just because you don't write it down. Same thing. I say, okay, if I start to run a treadmill and it's like, oh my God, how come I used to run 2 miles now? It's like I can't breathe after a mile. And I was like, but I go back and it's like, okay, when was the last time I ran? Okay, did I sleep well last night? And let me try again tomorrow and see if I can do the same thing. If I do it 3 or 4 times, because one time I had the same panic attack because somebody talked to me about one of their relatives, one of their friends who have a son have a stroke. They're in their 40. And when something that I related to you get worried, you get scared. And then I went on a treadmill, I ran, and all of a sudden, I would out breath after a mile. I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? And I went to the bathroom, I puked out, and I was like, oh my God, is something going on again? Well, so same thing. The next day, I go back, I do the same thing I did yesterday, and I was able to do fine. And sometimes, your body might not in the best shape it is just because we only think about what we did yesterday. What about what we did a couple of weeks ago, what we did months ago? And our body's like weather. It's not always on the top shape. But when you identify what it is, and then you observing it, and if you cannot have a solution, then you'd have to learn to slowly ignore it. Your question is like, what about ignore it for the next, same thing for the next summer, for next spring, same thing, we have to practice it, but first you have to write it down. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I love that. I think that's really helpful. it kind of reminds me of something. I just went through a business planning clinic, and they were talking about this idea of like habit stacking. And I think it's really interesting. Like a lot of times for example, a lot of people have the habit of they finish dinner, they go and sit down on the couch and grab the TV remote. And so this idea of habit stacking is kind of twofold. It's one, how do we implement a habit we want to have, right? So for example, one of the examples I gave is, well, every time I get up to go to the bathroom my work day, I do 5 push-ups or I do 5 squats or something like that. Then there's the opposite of, well, how do I eliminate the things I don't want to do? And it was like, well, if after you eat dinner, you go and immediately go plop down on the couch and watch TV, what if you took the batteries out of the remote and put them in a different room? Well, now it's something where you have to go and put in effort to do the thing that became really easy. And so I think that there's a way to reduce some of your stress by just simply making the things that are stressful that you do out of habit harder to do. And then the things that you do want to do, stack it with something that you're already doing a lot of. So as an example, and for me, my wife was getting on me for a while about checking my email right before I go to bed, because I can't fix anything that comes through an email at 10 o'clock at night. Why am I looking at it? And so now it's been, put my phone on the other side of the room. So I try not to go and check my email right before bed, because all it's going to do is potentially add stress. There's no benefit to doing that. And so I think finding those little things where you're like, this can be a tomorrow stress. This doesn't need to be a right now stress, can have a very big impact on your life.
I agree. And what remind me, I think the biggest thing right now is in denial, right? So if you're not aware of what you do is bad for you, then nothing's gonna change, right? Like say, if I know my posture is like that, and I know how bad it's gonna affect my spine in the next couple of years, then I might think about changing. But because everybody know they have poor posture or bad posture, but nobody, really work on changing it. So same thing with the stress that we have through our life, and human are great at adapting. That's why we survive through a lot of things. But that's our strengths, also our weaknesses. So you have to, when you do something for so long, even though it might have been 20 years, that doesn't mean it's good for you. That's how we have bad habit, right? You keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And that's why sometimes, people lose track of joy in their life, because it's like a machine that you repeat the same thing. So sometimes you have to actually take some time and write down the stress in your life. And then not only the stress, but what do you like to do? You remember your hobby. You still have hobby. What do you do for fun? What do you do for yourself when you have spare time? And most people nowadays, they're like, spare time, what are you talking about? I don't have time, but I have time for myself. And if you said so, if you say you don't have time for yourself, that's an alarm right there. That's a red flag right there. You have to find time for yourself. Because I had patients like that. And I think that's part of the reason why I want to share this with you guys, because I see, 20 people, 10, 20 people every day, 5, 6 days a week. And they all share with me the stress in life. And many of them don't have time for themselves. And I see the changes physically and mentally. I can see they start gaining weight, they start to get fatigued, tired, and then they say, I want to exercise, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I don't have time for it. I have commitment with my daughter, I have to take her there, here. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And it's dangerous. That's how we end up with chronic disease. And they might tell me, Dr. Tran, it's easier saying that. Yes, but the thing is, have you even think about doing something about it? Because if you're not even sitting down and identify and think about changing those things, nothing's gonna change. I can bring you to the water, but I can't force you to drink the water, right? I can give you all this information. It might not, you might think, oh, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't, well, maybe not. And that's people say, oh, I love working, I enjoy working. It's great for you. But just because you enjoy working something doesn't mean you don't burn out. Actually, I just came back on a trip, remind me, I met one of my wife's uncle in Vietnam, and he's an attorney. And it's very interesting because he telling me that lately his health is being deteriorating, he's not doing well. But he loves his work. He said, I'm so passionate about my job, and I can sit in front of a case and I can do it for 5, 6 hours without resting. But then his wife started telling me that he forgot a lot of things. Like she would ask him to go somewhere, and he would leave, 30 minutes later and call her and it's like, well, what do you want me to get? He's so focused on his work. Now that is not good. He's passionate about it, but he's actually burning himself on the work. So just because you're passionate about something, just like me, I love what I do, but I have to rest. I might be able to, in my mind, I might be able to treat 30, 40 patients, but my shoulder can't take it, my wrist can't take it, my back can't take it. And I could go through it one day. Physically, I won't be able to do it, even though mentally I think I can. So first thing you have to do is you have to stop, sit down and think about your body. How much have we abused this body? Doesn't matter how strong, how healthy you think you are, you do the same thing for 20, 30 years. The burden on it is just tremendous. So slow down for a second, make the time and say, okay, what can I change? How can I find 10 minutes for myself, 30 minutes for myself? Lately, I tell some of my patients, maybe just on the way home, stop somewhere for a coffee shop or something for 20, 30 minutes. Just have a coffee and relax and leave work at work. And like you say, do not check email. I mean, 30 years ago, before we have cell phone, right? You don't have to always answer the call. Because think about it, even if let's say something happened at work right now, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, can you do anything? Not really. But when you look at it, it stays in your mind, and you couldn't sleep over it. Is it worth it? You can't sleep, you can't recover. And when you have big or bad habit of not sleeping enough, that's it. So first thing is be aware, right? But you have to sit down, you have to think about it, you have to write it down, and you have to think, how do I make myself better? And even if you think you don't have any stress, great. But you can always improve. Because I don't think anybody in the US, very few people that doesn't have any stress. But stress is okay. But you also identify as those stress overload you slowly. Just like arthritis, tendonitis. Your tendon don't get, burn out over time. Your tendon is designed to last your lifetime. But all of a sudden, so many people have tendonitis, but they don't have any pain until I touch it. Just because you have problem, you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not there. Just like, we use our phone. We don't have pain till the end of the month, right? That doesn't mean you don't owe money. So same thing, you own your body a lot, but they have not sent you the bill. But sometimes by the time they send you the bill, it's too much for you to pay. So we have to physically slow down, especially if you are around my age, 40, 50. You definitely put tremendous amount of stress in your body. And don't wait until it broke down.
I love that. And I think something else that was brought up in that business planning clinic I was in was this idea that everyone's like, oh, I don't have time, talking about time management. And Pam, who led the workshop, was saying that she hates the word time management because no one can manage time. Everyone's got the same 24 hours. So how is it that some people are able to get everything done that they want to get done, including the things they want to do for themselves, but other people can't? It's not because they lack time management. It's because they lack activity management. They lack the ability to, they lack the ability or the desire to prioritize what's important. And so she was really big about, time blocking your schedule. And, the tasks you put on your calendar will take up as much time as you give them. And so if you really look at the things that you're doing, like, why are you only blocking out your work tasks and the family tasks, but you're not blocking out your own personal stuff? If you live by the idea that my calendar, if it's in my calendar, it gets done, why aren't you putting personal time on that calendar? Why don't you block out, this is my time to do nothing, right? Like, if you block those out and say, this is, if it's in my calendar, it happens, you have time now because you've prioritized it. But of course, if you only prioritize work and you only prioritize, taking your kids to their games and whatnot, you'll never have the time because you're never prioritizing yourself.
Absolutely. We all have 24 hours, right? and then talk about time management. I think one of the things that we're very proud of is people love to say, I'm great at multitasking. And I think that's a problem, especially with the phone, with social media. It's not good to be multitasking. Like you can't just be a father and a doctor working at the same time, right? When I'm spend time with my kid and then listen to they talking about school, I can't just there and then talking with my patient. And I think that's one thing that we get in trouble with how easy everything accessible, like work email, work phone, and then home. Sometimes we forget that beside being, at work, you're a boss, you staff, you're a co-worker. When we get home, we have to take off the hat of work, put there, so we put on the hat of the dad. Now, but that dad hat should be on for a certain amount of time. But sometimes we put both of them on at the same time, and because even including me, I was at dinner, and then my phone rang, and my patient called me and asked about thing, and all of a sudden I switched over, and I went out and talked on the phone for like 15 minutes. I came back and my wife was unhappy, but then I was mad because I was like, that's patient. So in my mind, patient's priority, but to my wife, it's dinner time, family time. You see, and that's how we really messed up, and that's where the problem with being passionate about something. Because I think I'm so passionate about what I do, sometimes I put my patient on top of everything else. And I think a lot of people in this country have the same problem, when you put work priority over everything. But once again, remember COVID? The entire world stopped. When your health broke down, when you crash, nothing mattered. Right? Even the world stopped when COVID broke down. It doesn't matter how important you are to me. If you hear I have COVID, you're not gonna get close to me. You stay there. Leave me alone. You get recovered and then you come and pay me. Even imagine that. Even if somebody owe you money, right, at the time. No, you don't have to pay me there. You get me later, right? So ultimately, your health should be number one in the world, the top of the list. Because even if your children, right, your parent, you can't help them if you're sick. Nothing. You can't do anything. Just like, people's like, oh, Dr. Tran, my car broke down this morning. I can't go to work, right? Well, you fix the car, right? But if my back hurt today, I'll go to work. I'll take a pop of pill and I'll go to work. Take care of yourself, right? Your health is everything, but not just physical health, mental health too. It shows that people have elderly that have grandchildren that stay close to family live longer, right? Because they're always interactive. I think humans are great in community. We love to bond with other people. We love to communicate. But this country, we get more and more isolated. Everybody just focus so much on work and themselves that they lack of community. When you drive around, you see car, but you don't see people. You don't see a lot of neighbor, hanging out around anymore. So that's why sometimes you sit down and say, okay, what's my purpose here? Do I work like a dog for like 11 months and 2 weeks just so I have 2 weeks off vacations? And like you say, everybody have the same amount of 24 hours. And then we have to prioritize what's more important. And yes, it's hard to say, but first of all, you have to think, do you actually think about changing any of that? Because you get so used to it that you just go with the flow. Sometimes you have to step outside of the flow. Just like me, I used to work for 12 years, I worked 12 days, 6 days a week. I didn't see my dad for 8 years. I didn't think it was bad because I have to make a living. But then when my shoulder, I tore my rotator cuff, I tore my shoulder muscle, I couldn't do the work I did. Then I realized you can't, even if you want. You physically cannot do that anymore. And that's when I realized I have to slow down. I have to make a difference. I have to change it. And then I have to hire an associate. It was a scary time when can I afford him? But, I hire him and then 6 years later it's worked fine. So sometimes we're afraid of changing, right? But sometimes you realize you have to change. Because if you don't change now, you might not have time to change later.
Yeah, I think that I've heard a lot of stories that are very similar to yours, right? Where there was something that happened that made you. Normally, it's a health scare of some way, shape, or form that makes you go, okay, I should maybe I need to make a change. Um, I think the issue with that is not everyone's so lucky that they have a health scare and then they're able to come out on the other side alive or even just in good enough health to keep doing what they're doing. And so you only hear the stories of the people who had a health scare and then made a change and are now okay. Um, so I mean, I was just listening to I was at a workshop and one of the guys who was speaking was talking about productivity and how he had a heart attack and basically was like, I have to make a change right now or I'm going to die. But like, we shouldn't have to wait till we get to that point to do that.
Right. And
Uh,
that's why I make all these videos for, so that I don't want anybody. I mean, I tore my shoulder and the torn muscle's gone, but I still be able to use my arm. But let's say if something like a heart attack, stroke, you might not recover. And I don't want people to get in that scare before they realize, oh my God, I have to do something, I have to change. So I'm hoping all this story that we share from me, from my patients. Remember, I see 10, 20 patients a day for 20 years. So I see a lot of people go in and out. And they're all from different backgrounds. They all but all of them share with my story, which stress they have that they don't realize they're in it. You know, just like people have bad posture, but have they ever seen themselves in the pictures? So I want you guys to reflect yourself and see yourself. That's why write it down with your stress, identify it, help you recognize it and acknowledge it, and then figure out a solution. I think if you actually acknowledge and accept this, then it's easier to come with a solution. But most people don't even have time to sit down and think about those things.
I love it. I love it. So I think a kind of a quick recap as we wrap this one up. Number one, I see the most important thing is you have to acknowledge that there is maybe a problem and commit to being willing to make a change. Step two is write down all the things that are causing you stress, understanding that you can't get rid of all of it. There is stress in life, and stress is a good thing, but too much stress and not having breaks from it is not. So step two is to write down all the things that are stressors, and I guess step three is then start to figure out what ways can you start to mitigate some of that stress. How can we get rid of certain of items or prioritize them, put some of them on hold, work through them one by one. But I think that I like leaving listeners with some action items because sometimes it's great. I don't know about you. I read a book and I go, that was a great book. And then I put it on the shelf and I never implement anything. So I think if we follow steps 1, 2, 3 here, you're at least taking a step forward. And they don't have to be big, drastic changes. They can be small changes. A walk of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So what's something small that you can make a change of now that'll be able to slowly compound? And once you've mastered that, figure out another small step that you can go on. But those are at least the takeaways that I heard. Any final takeaways from you, Dr. Tran?
Yeah, same thing. Like I said, make a list of your stress. Probably take you 10, 15 minutes or even less. Write them down. And then identify, like I said earlier, the leaves start shedding, right? When you identify your stress, and then you can figure out which of those you can shed. But also thanking. Remember, we talked about Thanksgiving is coming. We thank everybody else but ourselves. So every day, every night, appreciate yourself. Thank your body. Allow yourself to listen to your body and realize that I'm sorry, I have not been nice to you. I have not been kind to you. Be selfish. I think that's one thing that it's harder to do when you have families and things. Is you only work very hard, but spend some time for yourself. Identify your stress. Write them down your stress, because we hear that all the time. But not only stress from work, stress from home, but physical stress too. Identify them, write them down.
Love it. You want to do our wrap it up, give our conclusion?
Yep. So thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. Like I said, every time I see changes, I love to travel, and the word just make a huge difference on my perceptive of health. I love to travel, but I don't have health. I can't travel, right? Um, I love to leave a legacy, but that's too fancy word for me. That's too big for me. All I want to do is make this video is that I want to share with you the vision I see through my eye, the world I see through my eye, with what make me a better and healthier person now than I was 20 years ago because of what I do. And little by little, I want you to take this journey with me and make yourself healthier and enjoy every step of life as it presents. Because I think we focus so much on working very hard now and enjoy later, that later never come. And so let's wrap up this today, but we're gonna try to make more and more video like this. And like I say, I'm not professional all this stuff. I just share with you my thought, and you take it, you use it. It's up to you how you use it. But remember, this is not professional advice, right? It's just from my personal experience because of my professions in healthcare. I work for 20 years now. I see 10, 20 patients a day, 5, 6 days a week. I learn their story. They teach me so much thing. So I want to share with you what I learned from them and what I learned through my experience of treating my patients. So I just hope this helped and make your life better, so you don't have to make the same mistake as some of my patients make and regret over it. All right, until the next video, if you have any topic that you're interested in, if you have anything that you want us to talk about, discuss about, or even if you have anything to share, please write in the comment below, and we appreciate it.